The France 24 interview from Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic, where we will be talking to Jean-Yves Le Drian, the French Foreign Minister. Thank you for having accepted the invitation from France 24 at the end of this short visit to the Central African Republic, 24 hours in a very difficult context with a political crisis which has been in place since the removal of the President of the National Assembly and the violence in Bambari, where 27,000 people have been displaced. According to you, is the situation of security and humanity going to deteriorate?
You're right, the situation is not stabilized. I haven't been here for a couple of years, and I was expecting a kind of fatalism, resignation on behalf of the authorities, but also from the population. And I found that in spite of the problems you alluded to, including the permanence of insecurity, there is determination, will and hope. But I found also, on behalf of the authorities of the Central African Republic, a will to move forward, including on behalf of the President, move forward in the peace African initiative, because it's the roadmap. I found determination, and I'm taking away from this visit with more satisfaction than apprehension, even if I had a lot of apprehension when I came here.
And yet, although the capital, the examples you mentioned, is under the control of the authorities, we're in a country where 75% of the country is in the hands of armed groups. What can we do to reverse the situation?
Yes, but there's a process underway. All of the players must be present. If not, they'll bear the responsibility facing the history of their inability.
In spite of this, the mediation is not going very well. A dual mediation with the Russians. The Russians are more and more present here. You mentioned the action of the European Union, but the Russians are also supporting the Central African Army. You have announced the sale of French weapons to the Central African Army, and the Russians are doing the same thing. Is France in competition with Russia regarding Central African Republic?
Two remarks regarding what you just said. To the best of my knowledge, there was no Russian initiative to reach peace in the Central African Republic, or to have a new roadmap, or I'm not aware of it.
Parallel discussions in Sudan.
I know only of one initiative. It's the African Initiative themselves. I know only about one party. It's the African Union with its president, Mr. Kagame, and the president of the Commission, Mr. Moussa Faki. I know of no other initiative. If Russia thought useful to do something else, it should state it publicly and say to the African Union and to the United Nations. It didn't do it, to the best of my knowledge, so it doesn't exist.
And do you think that Russia's presence here is doing good or no good?
Well, Central African Republic is not a playground. It's not a ground for competition. The only topic that should be of importance of those who want to deal with Central Africa is the happiness and the future of Central African people, the security of the country, its development, and not use potentially the problems of this people and of this country to establish themselves on a continent where there would be hidden ambitions. France is a historic partner. France is present. It has been present in difficult times. There were not many people, end of 2013, to help the Central African people in the difficult situation of this country with the violences we experienced, where we see the outcome also. We were present. Some of our soldiers lost their lives when they defended the integrity of Central African Republic, and we're still here. If others wish to come and help, they're welcome. But it's up to the government to decide. Ask President Todera.
Have you discussed this with the President, especially as we have the feeling, it's not just an impression, corroborated by certain facts, that there has been a campaign, a media campaign against France, and Many people accuse the Russians for organizing it.
I didn't come here to put anyone on trial, especially put on trial a foreign power. I came here to help the Central African people to ensure the security, the development. It's the only thing of interest to me.
Let's talk about a neighboring country, Cameroon, where a presidential election, a very controversial one, occurred in October. President Paul Biya was re-elected on the 22nd of October by the Constitutional Council, but the opposition have accused the government of fraud. From your point of view, was the election in Cameroon a free and transparent election?
Look, I don't have the capacity to judge. There was no control commission initiated where France would have been present. I noticed there was an election that took place in the calm. Even there were some problems in the English-speaking regions. I noticed that the president was stated to be elected.
Is he legitimate?
He was elected and said so by the Constitutional Council, by the Cameroon institutions, and we have, regarding Paul Biya, a relation of trust, a very demanding relation.
Is he an ally?
I don't think in terms of alliance. I think in terms of responsibility, political responsibilities of the various African countries who assume their own responsibility and make their choice. France is there if required. And regarding the situation in Cameroon, I think opportune, and President Macron told him that President Biya should take the necessary initiatives to show a new way, to take into account the difficult situation of the English-speaking regions, to talk to youth, to show them a destiny, and to do so that the political process and democratization of Cameroon be really the main direction of the new mandate.
So many parts of society say that France does not do anything, doesn't say anything, that the door is closed, that we can't hear the aspiration, democratic aspiration, and the desire for change. Does France prefer, in Central African Republic, to have relations with states or regimes which are more stable, more authoritarian?
Sir, it's been quite a long time. You may belong to another world, but it's been a long time that France is not picking the governments instead of the Africans. This is something of the past. If some still indulge in it, they're wrong. France recognizes what is happening on the ground and doesn't substitute itself to the players on the ground. It has to help the players when the players ask for it. And regarding Cameroon, I say very clearly that it seems desirable that President Biya make the different adjustments, giving what he noticed himself, the aspirations to more democracy, you're stating. France is intervening when the basic principles are questioned. If journalists are being jailed, it's unacceptable.
In this part of the country, President Déby, President Sassou, President Biya, the President Obiang, there are leaders who have been in power for 20 or 30 years or 40 years. If France doesn't choose the presidents, does France prefer changes of government?
It's not our vocation. African states are autonomous, sovereign, independent. It's when basic values are questioned, it's time for France to talk, but it's true for Africa and other countries in the world. Africa is not the backyard of France.
Is that finished?
Not for you, it seems. But for the French government, it does.
Let's talk about the G5, the Sahel. What is the situation regarding collecting funds to put in place the military force, the joint military force? Is it going to replace the Barkhane operation?
What was not perceived enough, especially in Europe, but even in Africa, is the very innovative aspect of this joint force. It takes time. It's a true cultural mutation.
And money.
Yes, money, time and money. But money is there. It comes slowly, but it comes. It needs a lot of political will to get it here. But two things go together. The more you move forward in the unification of the force, the more the donors are led to be there. France is there, the European Union is there, 100 million euro, and the building of this joint force is underway.
And yet, Isn't France going to have to intervene again? It did so in Burkina, where you were. Will France intervene more in Burkina Faso, which seems the weak link in recent weeks?
Burkina Faso has problems of security. I was there a few days ago, and the Barkhane force intervened at the request of the Burkina Faso authorities against the terrorist groups who are leading actions in part of the countries. There are some problems. Barkhane can be a one-off. It is so if the Burkina Faso authorities are requesting for it. It cannot substitute itself to this decision, but it means also that the Burkina Faso must by itself structure its own security to be able to react itself to the attacks of those groups which are wishing to harass the government, because the issue in Burkina Faso, like we have seen previously in the Central African Republic, is to ensure the authority of the state.
If the people of Burkina ask, France will strike, will organize strikes.
I hope we'll not be led to do too much of it, because the Burkina Faso people are present on their own territory, and the action of the terrorists has nothing to do in Burkina with the one we experienced in Mali in 2013. Those are one-off, asymmetrical, similar to highway robberies. So it's the implementation of a police and gendarme force sufficiently motivated, sufficiently equipped in Burkina that should settle the issue.
Last question. Have any news about President Ali Bongo?
I'm like everybody. I know that Ali Bongo was hospitalized in Riyadh following a malaise. To the best of my knowledge, he's still in hospital.
No information on what happened to him? We heard about a stroke.
I'm not his doctor. Even if I would, there's the medical secret. I have no special information.
Jean-Yves Le Drian, thank you for having answered our questions. News continues on France 24.